When we're communicating using written words, whether it's texting or email or whatever, it's easy to be misunderstood. So many of us have made huge mistakes in emails. Either we're too wordy or unclear or just completely inappropriate. So I have 10 rules for you to follow. Get a pen and paper. You're going to want to keep track of these. If you want to get out of your own way and have positive email communications, not only at work, not only with your boss, not only with your employees and your peers, but also with anybody else you ever email, then this YouTube episode is especially for you, so stick around.
GILD Coaching. More success, less stress.
The one thing you are never going to be able to control when it comes to communicating via email is the way that the person on the receiving end interprets your message. Because of that, you have to be really very, very sure that you are being as clear as you possibly can. So number one, communicate clearly. Small, short, concise statements. You can be polite, but not too wordy, not a lot of adjectives. Just stick to the point and get that done. Don't use any slang. Don't try to put humor in there because we all have different levels of senses of humor and different styles of humor. And oftentimes humor and sarcasm is misinterpreted big time. So just stay away from that. Number two, don't try to get all fancy. Make it easy to read from an aesthetic point of view. Use spaces, short sentences, space between them. Nobody likes to get one of those emails, and we all know it. If you're one of these people, stop doing it. But we don't like to get those emails with the big, huge chunks of text in them. They're difficult to read. It's easy to get lost in there. And frankly, if you have that much to say, it needs to be a meeting. I'll cover that in just a second. Also, number three, check your grammar. Everybody needs to make sure that they are using proper grammar. Sometimes it's okay to have a grammatically incorrect statement if it is conversational and it would make it easier to understand. I don't like that as someone who really loves grammar, but I understand when that happens. But do use punctuation, and if you're going to quote somebody or answer a question from a previous email, go ahead and put that question in your email and put it in quotes so that people have a clear understanding, oh, he or she is answering this question right now, and then there's no confusion whatsoever. So those first three all have to do with clarity and understanding on the other side. Just to recap, keep it short, don't get fancy, don't use fonts, don't use anything like that. And then also make sure that if you're answering questions, you're quoting them so that everybody has a clear understanding. The next one, number four, ask permission before you send large files. A lot of email systems block large files now, so that's not a huge problem. I know if I send anything over 25 meg, it goes into my cloud and people get a link to then go to my cloud and download it, and that's fine. If you don't have that type of an email system, get a Dropbox. You can always send a link to people. It's really, really rude to send huge attachments to people because it takes up all of their available space in their email system, and then they may be bouncing out other emails that they really need to see. So if you have to send something big, call and say, hey, I got to send this big thing to you. How do you want to receive it? I don't have a Dropbox. Do you have a Dropbox? What do you want to do? And just work it out that way. That's a quick phone call, and the person on the other end is going to say, wow, that was really very kind. Number five, it's a pair with number four, but number five is do not ever, ever, ever with anybody, personal or professional, use email backgrounds. I don't care how cute or pretty or fancy you think that they are just like putting on a huge attachment. They take up way too much room in the email box and they're unnecessary. There's one person that I've emailed with continually and her email looks like a piece of notebook paper. Great, very cute. Stop. It's taking up too much room in everybody's email files, and it doesn't really differentiate you from the pack other than we all know you've got a background and nobody appreciates the size of your messages just for the sake of you having a strange background. White is always right when it comes to email backgrounds. Number six, stick with clear fonts. There are two that are up on the screen right now, Veranda and Georgia. Those are both recommended for email. For Veranda, the shape of all the letters are more open than other fonts, and there's additional space between the letters, so that makes it easier to read. As far as Georgia goes, each letter written in this font has an additional stroke at the end, so that means that there's a little bit more space there. It's generally easier to read the individual characters there as well. There are two fonts that are very commonly used in business that I'm going to say you probably shouldn't use in email. And these two fonts are very commonly used. I even worked with someone once who insisted on one of them in 11.5 size, and that one is Arial. The reason that Arial is not recommended for email, no matter what size you use, is that the letter shapes are similar. They're a little ambiguous, so it doesn't have a different A than it would an O. And so for people who wear glasses and contacts, that can be difficult to read, especially since almost 90% of the emails that we read is on our mobile device. So it doesn't matter how much you size up your font, it's still tiny. So Arial's a little difficult to read that way. The other one is Helvetica. Now, I have used Helvetica, I like it, but from my graphic designer personally, he says that Helvetica is one of those fonts with really tight letters. So the two that I just showed you have a little extra space between each character, and the spaces between each word are actually a little bit bigger. Helvetica is squished in, and so there's that small type problem, again, especially for people who need glasses or wearing glasses, contacts, looking at it on a small device. So even though Helvetica and Arial are very, very widely used as email fonts and otherwise in the business world, I'm going to recommend that you stick with either Veranda or Georgia. Now there's a whole host of other fonts out there. Let's just stick with the ones that we know that works. Definitely don't go for anything with curly letters or that looks like it's handwriting or anything like that. Leave that kind of stuff to graphic design, to the beautiful things that use them for marketing purposes, and you just stick with what you know is working. Because what works with email is to make sure that it's understood and it's not a problem to read. Number 7, use your subject lines. Never send an email with a blank subject, and make sure that your subject lines are clear and concise, to the point. Do not make them a sentence. It should be a phrase, a few words. Also, don't start a sentence as your subject line, put ... and then finish the sentence in the email. I don't care if you're sending it to your spouse, your child, your sister, your best friend, your boss, or the president of the company. That's rude. Your subject line is supposed to have a clear, concise summary of what the subject is. This is also your chance to let them know if it's time sensitive. I like to stay away from the word urgent in subject lines because I believe that the only thing that is urgent is if something is life-threatening or if the company needs an answer, or else it will go under within 10 minutes. Those are pretty much the only things that are super, super urgent. You can write time sensitive, put a colon, and then say need your reply on healthcare choices. Whatever it is that you need a reply on, this is your chance to let the individual who's on the receiving end use his or her own time management and email management skills to manage when they're going to read and respond to this. But just make sure it's short and to the point. Also, pick up your smartphone and open your email app and look and see how much of the subject lines you can see. If you make really long subject lines, we're not going to see them anyway. Most people are checking their email on their app and not on their desktop. And so a lot of what you're typing isn't even getting seen, and your topic isn't understood because your subject line has too many words in it. I'm going to give credit for number 8 to one of my former supervisors. On his first day at the company, he brought everybody into the room. He was the CEO, and he said, don't email him unless the email is 5 lines long or fewer. He said anything longer than that is a conversation. The reason is usually people over-explain things. They take way too long to get to the point, and that's wasting your time. So don't do that to other people. Now, if you have an email with notes from a meeting or something like that, obviously that's an exception, but you can still use this rule. I coached an attorney a while ago who had a very bad habit of sending chunks of text and really long emails, and her boss one day confessed to her that she didn't even read her emails. These were sensitive emails that her boss, the CEO of the company, needed to be reading, but they were so cumbersome and the boss had so many things to do that she wasn't getting to them. So here's our solution, and this is what you can use as well. If it needs to be longer, if you need to give detail, especially if it's a legal issue and you just need to make sure that your responsibility is covered, then send the email to whomever you're sending it to. Let them know what the email is about. I'd like to express to you notes from our last meeting. When time allows, please review them and get back to me with any changes, additions, or subtractions that you may have. In the meantime, if you have anything else that I need to know, please either reply to this email or give me a call in my office, give them your number, and then sign your name. After that, see, your email is complete. After that, you can put all the notes. So all those notes don't belong in the body of your email. They actually belong below the body of your email, or as an attachment, so that the recipients can then decide, oh, do I mark this as unread and come back to it later, or do I have time to invest in these notes? If you're saying, absolutely not, there's no way that I can get this email under 5 lines, then that means that you need to request a meeting. That way your email shifts from being an email about the topic to an email requesting a meeting. And this is the format. Your subject says meeting request with a colon, and then you put the clear, concise, short topic there. And then in the body of your email, here are 4 of your 5 lines. Topic of the meeting, the time you anticipate the meeting taking, any related deadlines to let the person know, if you need to move up the meeting date at all or do it quickly, and then say, I'd appreciate your getting back to me by whatever time. So request the response. If you request the response from them, that's just a professional courtesy that you're not ordering them around. You're asking them to let you know their availability, and that's just polite. Our last 2 rules today are quick and easy. Number 1, make use of your signature. Don't put fancy fonts in it or meaningful quotes or anything like that unless that is your company's policy. Look at the signature on the president of the company's email. Look at the signature on your manager's email and model that. Make your signature count. Have all of your contact information in there and set it so that if you reply, your signature automatically pops in there as well. It doesn't mean that you can't type your name at the end of an email or be more familiar with it. I do that. But it means every single time you're communicating with someone, you are giving them all the tools that they need to get back in touch with you. And it's really very much appreciated. So nobody ever has to go digging to see what your phone number is. Nobody ever has to go digging to see what your mailing address is. Nobody ever has to go digging to confirm the name of your company. You've already put it right there, not only in original emails, but also your responses. And our last rule is possibly the most important. Double check and reread your email before sending, because you never know. Maybe you have a spell check correction that's not exactly right. Maybe there's a misspelling. Maybe there's misplaced punctuation or something like that. Take a breath, get up, go get a drink of water, use the restroom, and then come back and proofread your message before hitting send. And if you're going to hit send with any anger or stress or anxiety behind wanting to send the email message, that is a huge red flag. It is not time to send that email message right then. You need to wait until you're calm, then reread it, and then hit send. There are many more tips and tricks that I have for you that are going to post this week in the Gilded blog. You can get the link to that blog below in the video description. Before you leave, remember to click subscribe and that little bell so that you know every single time we drop a new video that can help you be more successful and have lower stress. See you soon.